Division 6. We've got Matoaka in Division 5. We've got Rowena in Division 4, Armstrong in 3, and Amelia still alive in 2.
Oh, so we've adopted Amelia?
We've had them. We just keep them on the
Well,
periphery.
we have within the last 3 years interviewed. I can't think of he writes Joe Daniels.
Joe Daniel,
Yeah,
which but they have a new coach now,
Right.
and if they win this week, we'll have them on next Thursday. So anyway, very excited about that. I talked to Greg Lilly this week. You'll hear that at halftime on Friday, and probably along with a little bit of this interview we're going to do with Jerry.
That was an interesting game.
Yeah.
It was a really interesting game. How Benedictine turned themselves around was pretty interesting. I was happy because they did establish Leo Bowling very well, and I felt like that was imperative that they do that. But the best part of it was when they got the rest of the offense involved. Even they threw the ball to Puccinelli down the seam, so I think he got the ball to all 5 possible receivers at some point in the game, and that was important. I think it was important to be able to drive that much on Trinity.
So this will be Big River Rivalry 9. Can you believe that already?
No.
Wow.
No, have I done all of them?
Yes.
Good.
13. It was 13 through 19.
Yeah.
And then we didn't play in 20 and 21. Then last year was the 8th one, so this will be the 9th one.
Okay. It feels that,
It's the Big River Rivalry is old enough to where the quarterback for the North team, the very first one, was DJ Johnson from Highland Springs.
I thought you were saying, I thought you were going to tell us he's a coach now somewhere.
He is he's an assistant.
Yeah,
He's on the staff at Highland Springs. Yeah. So I want to give a shout. RVA Sports Production, Oscar and the guys there do a great job. Oscar and Oz are here tonight in studio. So there's 7 of us, and if you've ever been in this studio, it's not huge. And so we appreciate the effort they've made to get us on the stream tonight, so we can announce the players that are playing in the All-Star game.
You know the last time this many people were on this studio on Thursday night? Mike Vick declared for the NFL draft. And we had every...
Yeah, but that wasn't this studio. That was Churchill.
No.
Oh, declared for the NFL draft. That was here.
Yeah.
That was here.
Yeah, that was here. You're exactly right.
That and then Michael Robinson's entourage.
Okay, so yeah, there's that.
He came over. But I tell you what, I didn't like the entourage, but I loved the kid, and I knew if he didn't make it in football, he was gonna make it in something else, and he was right. I was right in both.
Okay, so without further ado, we're going to start introducing the players that have made the All-Star team this year. We're going to begin, and by the way, the head coaches this year are coaching against each other on Friday. Lauren Johnson is coaching the North team, and Tom Hall is the head coach of the South team.
Was it my imagination that a few more of those players are participating than usual from those two teams?
Well, yes. I mean, and it's funny because, when Tom was coaching all 5 Manchester kids, and it's like the 5 Manchester kids who got nominated, and we were meeting, and I was like, hey, just so you know, all 5 of these kids are really good. So, okay, we'll begin with the North team, and we're going to begin with the defensive backs. And the first one from St. Christopher's School, Jacob Zolar. And Gary, you talk about a guy that does everything for his team. Receiver, will run the ball on jet sweeps, plays defensive back, had 7 or 8 interceptions this year, and is the all-time return yardage leader in school history.
Is he Tink worthy?
Ooh, I don't know about that.
And we were referring to the first prep league player to really jump off the
Yeah,
screen.
Tink Boyd was like,
Tink Boyd.
Yeah,
from,
he was something
Trinity
else.
Episcopal.
Okay,
And we
moving
had
on.
Mickens that weekend too.
Right. Moving on with the defensive backs from Henrico, Javion Randall, and then I saw Henrico. That was the week you were gone. Coach Stu Brown and I did the game with Henrico, and Javion Randall, very capable defensive back for the Warriors. Deron Thomas from John Marshall is up next in the defensive back group, and then from Benedictine, Jordan Callahan. And we saw Callahan play wide receiver and defensive back for Benedictine.
Right.
And he is one of those, as a receiver, one of those possession receiver types that really can just knows how to get open and has some of the return game in him as well. So very versatile player from Greg Lilly's state championship team. Javon Lewis from Highland Springs is in the defensive back group. Javon Lewis from Hermitage is in that defensive back group. We saw him several times this year, outstanding player. And then Jamon Lewis from Highland Springs. You know, the secondary this year for Highland Springs, not as ballyhooed, but that is a very capable group, and we've seen him quite a bit.
Yeah, we have, and you know that's going to be a characteristic of the game, I think, too. Is we got a lot of really, really good high school players, but not the number of can't miss college prospects we've had in the past.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see some of these guys play. Varina's Elijah Brown is up next in the DB group. Elijah Brown anchoring that secondary for the Blue Devils this year, as they have the defenses. You know, we talk so much about Jayshon Richardson and that defensive front, but the secondary's been very good as well. Also in the secondary, Darius Rivers from Goochland, also Bubby Christian from New Kent, and Alex Garrett from Glen Allen. That's a guy, one of the defensive backside guys that jumped out at us with the Jaguars.
Yeah, he's got good range. He's got good length. But my favorite so far is if you're Bubby, you gotta get him.
That's right.
You gotta get him. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, speaking of, if this is your name, you got to have game. Next up in the DB group, Atleast Jack Ham. I never knew him to be a defensive back, but I saw he's got a boatload of tackles this year.
Well, he was speedy for a linebacker back in the day.
100%.
So he played defensive, but he ran that alley with the strong safety.
Right.
Strong safety.
So Jack Ham from Atlee, the defensive back group, and wrapping up that group, Anthony Allen from Armstrong. Tony Allen is the quarterback for Armstrong, but also plays defensive back. He's got a slash there on the roster, but I think will start as a DB. But he could, with the numbers he's put up, he could do either.
And they introduced a little bit more of a wildcat offense the other day. Did they not?
Yeah, I think they did. So, and then wrapping up that group, also the quarterback DB, the DB who also played quarterback from Caroline, Miles Holmes. Caroline participating in this game for the first time, and a friend of the program, Gerard Johnson, the former Meadowbrook quarterback, is the coach up there at Caroline.
And they are heading in the right direction. We
Yep.
said that for a couple of years, and I think Josh Just is still the principal.
I think he is. And you know, and of course, we talk about Caroline all the time with our friend who's the associate superintendent up there, Herb. Herb Monroe.
Herbie Monroe. Yeah.
That's right. So, okay, let's move on to the defensive line group. Mills Godwin's Tristan Ginn is in this group. Calvin Birch from J.R. Tucker. St. Christopher's standout Henry Omahundra. Boy, has he put together a career at St. Christopher's.
And he's really flexible too, and that's gonna come in handy in the All-Star game. I like him as like an H-back, really, but he's good on the defensive side of the ball as well.
From Mechanicsville, Hunter Osteen, Carter Hamilton from King William, and Jacob Paulette from King and Queen Central round out that defensive line group. At kicker from King and Queen Central, Patricio Carcamo, I think. Now let's go to the linebacker group. There's some good guys in here. Tyler Dunphy from Glen Allen. That's a guy that we saw make a lot of plays.
Right, and Glen Allen, I think their calling card was that they looked the part. They were just not a high school team that played together well. Perry Jones had himself a nice collection of guys that looked like multi-sport athletes.
Their front seven was really good this year.
Right. Johnny Patrick from J.R. Tucker is up next in the linebacker group. Also making the North team from linebackers, Mechanicsville's Max Beto. Deep Run's Philip Dubé is next. He made it from Deep Run. Wyatt Hamilton from Caroline. Jack Ferry makes it from Collegiate. Corey Mullins is in the game from Goochland. And last last in this group without the slash is a kid who is really made an impression on all of us that saw Hanover play this year, Zach Tyler.
Yeah, and I did not see him, but I saw him the year before, and I saw him in the playoffs, and so he is. I expect a big game from him, and I think they got knocked out in the first round, so he's got some rest. I don't know what he does during the off season, but I expect a big game from him.
Okay, the final linebacker who's slash quarterback, the quarterback from Patrick Henry, Grayson Johnson, has made the team this year. Okay, now to the offensive lineman. Lewis Beach from Douglas Freeman. That's a guy that started several years. He's very good.
And he needs to be. I mean, it was an interesting year for Freeman. They're coming off again another group of athletes that are probably pretty interested in getting back on the field after the heartbreaking overtime loss.
Tamarian Venable up next from Thomas Jefferson, makes the offensive line from the North team. Up next, Willie Sellers from Douglas Freeman. Now a couple of Highland Spring Springers jumping in to play for Coach Lauren Johnson. Raekwon Taylor and Takai Alexander. Alexander, I still remember him recovering that fumble in the end zone last year in the state championship game.
And he should be remembered for his every down play too. Because he's the most consistent of the offensive linemen at the Highland Springs.
Yep. Okay, next up in the offensive line list from New Kent High School, Peyton Williamson. Parker Mott from Hanover makes the team this year. Kaylon Valentine from Henrico makes it. And then Sharon Cosby from Hermitage. That's a guy that we've seen that has really helped Earl Winston this year.
Yeah, Hermitage's offensive line was really good, especially with the run game. Of course, Winston's a little bit easier to block for than the average tailback in high school.
Okay, the quarterbacks. From Mills Godwin, Daniel Viner, who started some last year, went away from the starting job, but put together a pretty good season for Coach Earl Kenny.
He really did, and Coach Kenny leans on a trigger man. It's kind of the game he introduces on the offensive side of football. So I'm glad he's recognized here.
Next quarterback from Douglas Freeman, Jaden Reese, who is a two-way, dual threat type quarterback.
Yeah, he's a kind of a whirling dervish in the backfield too.
Right.
So I like him. He'll be a nice change-up player for the next guy that shows up that you're talking about.
Yep, and the final quarterback become a Maryland Terp, leading the Highland Spring Springers, Christian Martin.
Yeah, and Christian's big games are ahead of him. It'll just be a question of how much does Highland Springs need him to inject himself into the game, because he's going to have 35 touches.
Okay, the running backs. Varanus Nasir Smith makes the team, and he did a great job running, but he also knew what to do with that 80-yard wheel route in the Highland Springs game.
His name keeps popping up.
Yep.
And we joke about how the skill positions of Bronco run together.
Next running back, Steve, I know you've been impressed with him, Hanover's Peyton Seelman.
Absolutely. Saw him the first week against Hanover, and against Hanover, and tough kid, tough runner.
The other running backs, J.J. Lewis from Atlee, who has put together a second straight strong season up in Hanover County, and Deshaun Stovall from TJ, as Thomas Jefferson put together an amazing season and is being recognized with players on this team. Okay, the one tight end we have is C.J. Cosby from King William. He makes the team this year from Scott Moore's team. Now for the wide receivers. From Collegiate, L.J. Booker. From Glen Allen, Christian Robinson Clark. From Deep Run, Sean Patel. Miles Anderson, the standout receiver from Thomas Jefferson. He put together a huge year. Marshawn Vega from John Marshall. Ajanabi Bird from Armstrong. He caught 17 touchdown passes this season, and he's not done yet.
Man, that's big numbers right there.
That's a big number. We'll be asking Coach about him later in the program. From Patrick Henry, Jeremiah Grant, who's won a Bunkie Trinity Award here before. Freddie Barber, who you've seen the last few weeks from Benedictine.
Yeah, well-rounded player. Came up big towards the end of the game.
And Jordan Edwards from Verina, who is one of those guys that I can't believe he hadn't. How many years does he get? He seems like he's been there forever, but he runs the ball, receives the ball, plays in the defensive backfield. He is a guy that can really get it done. Okay, so that is the North team. The coach is Lauren Johnson, and here is Lauren Johnson's thoughts on the All-Star game.
Big River Rivalry is one of those quick little thought of. It was something that was just cool, but I think right now it's a keepsake. It's something that we have to hold on to and cherish in our region, because it gives kids an opportunity to kind of go out and finish their career on a high note, or just finish their career, doing something fun and giving back to their career.
Talk to me about the opportunity to get to coach some of your key seniors one additional time.
Well, it's always important, I think, you know, anytime you get to coach these guys, and albeit in a different setting, it's going to be an enjoyable time, and it just kind of gives them an opportunity to just, again, just be with Coach Johnson if they care to, or Coach Johnson be with them one more time and just kind of grow our relationship and have fun coaching in a big game.
As you looked at the list, were there any players that you were like, oh, it's going to be fun to coach that guy?
All of them. You know what? You hear about these guys all the time in their respective schools. You think about what they've done. You think about, you know, the things that they've accomplished and how their coaches feel about them. But, you know, to get the opportunity to coach them and coach with them and coach with some of these other guys is going to be fun.
Now, you've been a part of this before, so this is my question. You know, it's an all-star game. There's a different intensity, you know, kind of not as much. But in the fourth quarter, if the game's close, everybody remembers that they want to win rather than lose, right?
Absolutely. The North always wants to win, and I think every time I've been associated with it, the North has won. So we're going into it with that mindset. We're going to work extremely hard. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to do it for a good cause.
That's the thoughts of Lauren Johnson as he is the head coach this year for the North team for the All-Star game. South team's up next on the walkthrough.
And I was trying to say athlete, and I was looking down. And I.
So if you want to get my attention.
With mineral water, cleanliness you can be thankful for. And Hadid
Somebody's watching this stream because I just got an email about media credentials.
Continues on Sports Radio 910 The Fan and 105.1 at Back.
You're on.
Okay, Steve Adams, Coach Chris, Gary Hess, Megan and Ashley taking care of us with producing, and the guys from RVA Sports Production joining us for the unveiling of the Big River Rivalry rosters. The North team has been announced. Now we will announce the players who made the South team. We begin with the two who have been designated at center position. First up, Ryan Mitchell from Trinity Episcopal, part of that offensive line from Trinity that's really good.
Saw him this weekend up close, and I was impressed with him before the snap and after the play started.
The other center is Liam Henry from James River. Then we have a kid who's been designated as a corner from Prince George, Gabe Jones. Now on to the other defensive backs. Reggie Ray from Richmond High School, Amari Morris from Powhatan. If you remember, when we talked to Mike Henderson a few weeks ago, he mentioned him by name, one of the key players from Powhatan this year. And another player that got mentioned by name when we interviewed Justin Keeler from Colonial Heights, Stephen Ackerman, who you said was the best player on their defense.
Yeah, and the great thing about this group is we've seen, we know that they're getting better because of the competition they're playing.
Right.
And with the Morris kid, he's probably getting good playing against that quarterback and that wide receiver over there. So
Okay.
passing attack.
The rest of the group classified as DBs. Will Fitcher from Blessed Sacrament Huguenot. Will Fitcher makes the South team for the Big River Rivalry. And from Midlothian, Knox Berry. And Knox Berry is one of those guys, man. He was carrying the ball, catching the ball, making interceptions. He did a little bit of everything.
All those berries are really versatile.
Yeah, no question. Next up on the list, a name we know very well, a guy headed to West Virginia from Manchester, Makai Byerson. This kid is the truth.
As I told you the first of the week, I hope he's got a lazy boy chair that he can use all the time because he needs to rest up, because if he's playing for Coach Chris, he's talking about 75 snaps.
Yeah, exactly. So, Makai Byerson, the first of 5 Manchester players to make this team. James River has defensive end. We've moved to the defensive end position. I apologize for not mentioning that. Anybody that's seen Byerson play knows that. Ethan Byers from James River at defensive end. Darius Jeter from Amelia, and he has been one of the key players in that Amelia team, one of the 6 still playing in the Richmond Metro. And the final defensive end, Donovan Cooper from Hopewell, who made several plays when we saw them against Thomas Dale. Okay, and the final defensive lineman, Keenan Barlow from L.C. Bird. Part of L.C. Bird was offensively challenged at times this year, but the defense was very good.
Is that the D-line / fullback position? Is that my bad, Salah?
Yeah.
Remember the kid number 30 from Bird? Was it defensive tackle and fullback?
I don't. I do remember. I think they had several of them, but
yeah.
Keenan Barlow fills that role this year. Okay, now we move to the defensive tackles. Khalil Parham from Dinwiddie, who is very good, and Aiden Jones from Thomas Dale, a two-way standout that's earned a Bunkie Trinity Player of the Game award from us.
And a good player and a big player and a next level player.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, Calvion Thomas from Richmond High School is a defensive tackle, and finally a defensive tackle, Jaden Lee from Atoka, another kid who's another team who's still playing. The kicker is Connor Bates from Powhatan, and I remember Mike Henderson saying they had one of the best kickers in the area. He insisted that this is a guy needed to be on the team. Can't wait to see him perform. Now we go to the linebackers, and the second Manchester player, Alaza Lewis, who I'm just going to say is a tackle machine.
He is a tackle machine, and of course he had a good defensive front in front of him, but they're a different team when he's nicked up or he needs a rest or something like that. He's a really, really good player. I expect him to be good in an all-star environment.
Steve?
Yeah, I was getting ready before. I'm sorry, Christian Payne. I was going to talk about Christian Payne.
Oh, so Christian Payne. Next up, Christian Payne from Huguenot.
Yeah, had a chance to see him play last week over at Verina. Again, that Huguenot defense, they're not very talented on the offensive side, but that Huguenot defense is pretty good, and that kept them in the ball game when they got behind quickly 14-0.
Okay, so that's Christian Payne. From Cosby, linebacker Chandler Smith. From Meadowbrook, for Coach Billy Rudd this year, Devin Anderson. Next up in the linebacker group, Sage Norrell from Monacan. And then next up, and Gary, I want you to mention this kid, Patrick Scott from Hopewell. You talk about he ran the ball, made a ton of plays on the defensive side of the ball, was involved in special teams. We would give him the Jared Brown Award.
We did, and it was needed because Hopewell was nicked up pretty well. In fact, they was part of their optimism was the fact that they were going to get some players going back to the playoffs, but they had a tough draw in the playoffs.
Okay, from Blessed Sacrament, Hunter Case, rounding out the linebacker grouping, Kamari Harrison from Prince George. Next up, from Midlothian High School, Brandon Ross. And from Hopewell, Antonio Cherry. All three of those guys could also play tight end, but that wraps up the linebacker group. Now to the offensive linemen. Samari Harvey from Clover Hill. Solomon L. Wright from Dinwiddie makes the team this year from Coach Billy Mills' squad. From Petersburg, Amir Dickinson. Two from Trinity Episcopal. Will Rosen makes it from Sam Mickens' team, and Cooper Gardner from Trinity Episcopal as well. That means three offensive linemen from that Trinity offensive line make this team, and that's legit.
And they have an offensive line coach as their head coach. I wonder who'll play them as a unit.
Indeed. So
They
that's
like to run the football.
yes, indeed. From next up from Manchester, our reigning Bunkie Trinity Trophy Player of the Week, Kenny Walls.
And he's a monster.
Yeah.
And that so far I really like the way the offensive line sounds.
Yeah, exactly. Next up from Monacan, Ryan Markham. Welcome to the South team of the Big River Rivalry. And C.J. Brooks wraps it up from Clover Hill. Then we have the punter, who's also can place kick, but we got the Powhatan kid already we've mentioned. The punter is Zach Bowers from Matoaka. Now to the quarterbacks. There are three. First up, Riley Justice from Matoaka. He's put together a really good year.
Saw some tape on him today, and I'm trying to think of he played in Japan. I know he played at Madison, he played at Marshall, the former quarterback at Matoaka, the quarterback coach there.
Dustin Clark.
Nope.
Nope.
I'll think about it. I lost my mind. He played for Greg Gregory in Japan.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about too. Next up, Matthew Lehman from Powhatan, a kid who was just put up huge numbers this year and had a couple of fantastic finishes. And then the final quarterback, Ethan Minter. This is an honorary position. Obviously, he's out hurt, and a very well-deserved honorary mention for quarterback from Thomasdale, Ethan Minter. Okay, first up in the running back group from Manchester, Devin Bryant.
Yeah, he'll have a big role on Friday, that's for sure.
Okay, next running back is from Cosby, Robert Boyd IV. When we talked to Josh Wild a couple weeks ago, he mentioned him, and he was kind of the bell cow for that offense this year. From Meadowbrook, Donovan Jefferson had several 100-yard gains for Coach Billy Rudd, as he has really started to try to rebuild that Meadowbrook program. Donovan Jefferson.
He was the bell cow for that program.
Yes,
too.
he was. So that's one of the South team running backs, Donovan Jefferson. And the final one, Keshawn Henderson from Hopewell, who has managed some injuries this year, but is still very good. And, before he kind of got the high ankle sprain, was really dazzling early in the season.
Yeah,
We'll
we
see.
can see if he's healthy and how it will affect his career.
Yep, absolutely. The final running back, who's a slash running back DB, Will Managabang from James River.
I love that name. I love that last name.
Safety, Malik Foster from Life Christian makes the team. From Colonial Heights, a name we talked about a lot, Kenyez Mungro Johnson playing safety slash running back. He was, we talked all the time about the quarterback and that running back from Colonial Heights. And you talked about, remember that one week he put up huge numbers in all three phases of the game, had a interception return for a touchdown, kick return for a touchdown. Jacob Seaborn from Thomasdale makes the team. We've seen a lot of him. Mason Short from Matoaka, tied at the tight end position. Now for the wide receivers, Nick Tyree from Thomasdale. Everybody knows how good he is, right? Yeah, he's
Really
pretty
good.
Yep.
Really
From
fast.
Amelia, Justin Perry. From Manchester, Richmond bound, Kyrie Richardson. From Huguenot, Pierre Edmonds.
He can play. He can play.
Yep, he's definitely good. And Collie Coward from Life Christian. And then two final wide receivers, Amarian Taylor from Petersburg, and Rashad Lewis, who was a running back when we saw him, but is listed as a wide receiver here from L.C. Bird, Rashad Lewis. So that wraps up the South roster, and the head coach is Tom Hall. Here's what he had to say.
It's in your mark with this game. Can you just talk about what this game has become? And I often call it a celebration of 804 football. Let's talk about what a great way this is to put an exclamation point on the season.
It is. I mean, I think the Richmond Touchdown Club has done an amazing job sitting this up. And And for it to be a decade old, it's a tribute to all the men and women that put the work in behind the scenes. It is a celebration of football in our area, and it's really, I mean, I've been part of it both as a head coach in the past and as assistant. It's fun getting to coach other kids from other schools, you know, and just bringing them together and being able to play at Randolph-Macon, which is a great facility.
Obviously, for you, taking on the head coaching role this year, for a handful of your kids, going to get a chance to coach them one additional time. How cool is that?
It's amazing. I mean, you know, we actually were fortunate to have 5 of our kids selected, so getting a chance to coach them one more week is going to be awesome. And several of my assistants are also going to be joining us, and then having an opportunity to coach with some of the great coaches on the south side, it's going to be fun.
Talk to me a little bit about, you know, in general, some of these other teams, you know, as you go against them, you go, ooh, that player, oh, I like that player. And now you're going to be, for 1 week, you get to coach some of those players too.
It's a coach's dream. I mean, you know, we always sit there and talk about what if, you know, we could have an all-star team. Well, now we do. And, you know, being able to play against some guys that were actually thrown in your side, having an opportunity to coach them for a week and then kind of put your spin on their game, it's going to be pretty awesome.
You know, everybody talks about all-star games, and it's like, well, you know, it's an exhibition, and that may be the case, but if the game's close in the fourth quarter, it's going to be, hey, we might as well win this thing.
If it didn't mean anything, they wouldn't have a scoreboard. So you know what? Yeah, we're going to win. We're going to do everything we can to win and send this group of seniors out the right way.
Those are the thoughts of Tom Hall. And so those are the teams. December 16th at Randolph-Macon, 12 noon. We'll be broadcasting it. Oscar will be broadcasting it. RVA Sports Production. Make sure you check them out on YouTube and see all the great work that they do. Thanks to them for being here today to live stream this announcement. And those are the rosters for the Big River Rivalry All-Star Game. Okay, we're going to shift gears and continue with the radio side of the program next. We'll visit with the coach of Armstrong, Jeremy Pruitt,